welcome back to Shedwars. I'm late this week because the raspberry patch seriously needed maintenance. Otherwise, the berries would be getting ripe and I would not be able to harvest them. So we're a day late, 2 days late. Let's get on to it. We've had the temperature go down a little bit, so the tomatoes are not growing really fast, but still well. So you got 4 right there, we have 2 over there, and I think there's some small ones. Yeah, there's another one right there. So it's putting on quite a few tomatoes. When the packet says that you have a certain amount of days to maturity, it is something that well, it bears repeating because we often fall to that trap. The radishes, I looked through the entire lot and not one of them has bulbed up yet. Now, is that due to the climate? Is it due to the temperature? I don't know, but the days to maturity that you'll get on the packet, as I've said before, is under optimum conditions. That's when the plant is growing at its maximum rate. Swiss chard is coming along beautifully. It will be very big by the time the summer is out, and we've got a nice spacing, so hopefully we can get it to grow to its full potential. Along with the kohlrabi. Now the kohlrabi, they will grow for quite a while and then bulb up later on, so that's why there's none actually bulbing up yet. We have spinach bolting, and this is what bolting means. You see it's sending up a flower stalk instead of just continuing to produce new leaves. This one here as well, that's closer by, but if the temperature stayed cool like it has been last week, the end of last week, then it would just send out more and more leaves. But when we get the warm temperatures, now today it's going, yesterday it was 32 degrees, it's going to go up to 30 or more again today. That's when they start sending up flower stalks, your cool season crops do. Your turnips, for when they were planted, they're doing wonderfully here. They're nice and green, healthy looking plants, and very few holes in the leaves. Our lettuce, we didn't thin them out. I said before that they can stand some crowding because they're leaf lettuce. The other thing is that when you pull up, so say I'll pull up this one here now. If I somewhat disturb the roots of the plant next to it, they're not as prone to wilting as when you disturb the roots of, say, rutabaga, turnip, or beets. So what I want to do is thin them out a bit now and take the leaves in and make a salad. So this is a turnip, but it's not growing where it's supposed to be, so I'll pick that up and let it wilt down right there in that weed. I'll take this leaf off this plant because it's going over the turnip, over the lettuce, I mean. Now when I tried to pull that, the leaves just broke off, so that plant will probably regrow. And that's all I'm going to do with that now. The beans, even though we were actually quite late planting them, you see they're starting to get flower buds in the nodes here. So they'll be flowering pretty soon. And they're growing quite nicely at 4-inch spacing. That's something I have to remember for my own beets next year. Cucumbers I'm still surprised with, and it is only July the 20th, so we do have the time. So depending on the weather now, we'll see whether we actually get a crop from these. Another thing that's needing to be done, like now, is these potatoes. When you plant potatoes, even if you plant them deep really, they'll grow tubers that are just barely beneath the soil surface. And what happens when sunlight gets to the tubers is they'll build up the same poison chemicals that are in the leaves. And that's what the green is when you get a green potato. So you shouldn't eat green potatoes. It's not a high amount of poison, but it is the same stuff that's in the leaves. Now I'm going to cut some leaves off the potato plant for another reason. You see, you remember we planted the beets fairly close to the potatoes, and now the leaves are going out overshadowing the beets. Beets can withstand a fair amount of shade, but they grow best in full sun. So what I'm going to do is just clip them off. I'll lay them down on the ground because we need to put a mulch down there anyway. Take that weed out of there. And now traditionally, people would have them spaced widely, and they'd be able to rake the soil from either side of the row of potatoes up close to the potatoes to avoid the sun getting at the tubers. But I feel it's better to do it this way. I have some meadow clippings that I just collected here with the lawnmower. And I'll put it in around the potatoes. Fairly thick. It really doesn't matter so much with the potatoes and meadow clippings. Now what I mean by meadow clippings, this is not just grass. This has, there's stinging nettles in it, there's dandelion leaves, clover leaves, bits of trees because there's saplings growing up in the meadow, etc. It doesn't pack down like it would if it was just grass. And that will shade the tubers now. And I said in an earlier video that I might put some outside the beets, which is what I'm going to do. There's no cucumber growing right here, so I'll put some out here as well. and in between those beets and the cucumbers. This is what you can do with all your larger plants. Once they get up fairly high, you can mulch them around. Onions are the only ones I know of right now that will really not take well to being heavily mulched. Of course, with your leaf lettuce, that's not something that you would want to put mulch like this right up against anyway, because then you've got a lot of clippings and stuff in among your leaves when you go to harvest it. So that's what it looks like now. This will turn completely brown here in the next couple of days. There has been quite a few people who say that this, if you're living in an area where there's a lot of slugs, that this will give you more of a slug problem. Now, I live in an area where there's a lot of slugs, and I haven't noticed any change in slug pressure when I put this on as opposed to leaving it off. So that's up to you. If you notice a change, well, maybe you'll have to try something else, but that's been my experience, that slugs are there or they're not. Now, not deliberately, but I did do an experiment on the difference in what happens when you space plants out their recommended spacing or crowd them together. And we'll show you that in the main garden here. This is the mustard seed. I'll go around, because if I do it from this side, the sun will, my shadow will be in the way. But you see the plant, it grows up. It's just a single stalk. All the way up to these few flower buds on the top here. Now, of course, I've got a few per plant, and I've got many plants. If you go over here, this is the volunteer plants in with the beans. So they're shading out the beans. I will get a harvest, but let's look at the plant itself. Way down close to the bottom here, it starts to put out side shoots, and it's got just as many shoots, and then up on top of each shoot there is as many flowers as on the one plant over in the other bed. So I could have like a third or less of the plants, but still get the same harvest with respect to seeds. And the other thing I noticed, so you look at the leaves, they're nice green and healthy looking leaves. Back over here, we get a lot of yellowing of the leaves. The leaves are much smaller. So you're much better off, I think, going by the recommended spacing for mustard seed. You get better leaves and you'll get just as much harvest of seed in the end. There is, of course, exceptions. Beets being one of them. Because if you crowd beets together, you'll get smaller beets. If you want them to grow to their full potential, you spread them out, and then you'll get large beets with beautiful green tops. However, what if you like small beets? You want these little, let's say, quarter-sized beets that you would pick whole. If that is your intention, then it might be better to crowd them in and thereby get more beets per area of ground. And that's all, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button if you did. And if you want to follow and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next video.